Hey there, this is Lee Rowley, and this is Lee After Dark. Why? Because there's more to being a business leader than just business. Each episode, one brave entrepreneur ejects the elevator pitch and just gets real. Today, I'd like to welcome Judy Hoberman. Judy, how are you today?
I am fabulously. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate you coming on the show right after the holidays.
I'm excited. I couldn't wait. And I was making sure that today was really Thursday and not Monday.
I've been struggling with that myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, well, the rules are simple. For the next 20 minutes, you can talk about anything you want except for your business.
Oh,
After that, you got 5 minutes to pitch up a storm. But if you talk about your business during the 20-minute interview, you'll lose 1 minute of pitch time per infraction. So we're going to keep everybody honest here, okay?
you got the buzzer or the hook?
Both. It just depends.
It's
I can
good.
do carrot or I can do stick. It just, it just depends, right?
It's all good.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get the timer started. And what are we getting into today?
What would you like to know? I have so many things we can talk about. You just throw it out there and we can just pick it up and go.
Well, you listed some. You just kind of gave me some words, and so I'll just start with generosity. That's something that seems to be an ongoing theme throughout for the people that join this podcast and come on to tell about their stories. Is that generosity is an important component of their life. So I'd like to hear what your take is on that and why that's so important to you.
Well, whether it's business or pleasure, it doesn't matter. I think generosity is a very big topic. And what makes me uncomfortable sometimes is when I see people in November talking about gratitude and generosity because it's the month of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you have to be generous every single day. You have to be generous with things that may not cost you anything other than your time, because your time is your most valuable asset. So to me, generosity is giving somebody, 5 minutes of your time or giving somebody an hour of your time. But that's what, when we think about generosity, a lot of people say, well, I don't have money to be generous. You don't need money to be generous. Show somebody a smile, say something kind. That's really all it is. So to me, generosity is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a discussion that we were having a couple of weeks ago in terms of marketers, and there was just kind of this big divide with no, don't give anybody any of your time because the more you insulate yourself, the more important you are, and the more people will look up to you. And then the other half, I can't say though. For me, if I do good and put good out into the world, then as I say, luck or success will find me. And it's just always worked that way. That when I've said, no, mine, I've had to fight for everything. And when I've said, you know what, I will give freely, then I've never had to want for anything. So it's such an important thing. And I think that more and more people are waking up to that. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and the other part is, a lot of people will say, well, let me buy you lunch and I want to pick your brain. Now
Mm.
there's such a thing as being generous and there's such a thing as being like you're a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe that you have to give people a part of you and share your brilliance because they're going to ask for more. But when somebody abuses it, that's a different story. So that's not being generous anymore. That's being like no boundaries whatsoever. So
So what do you feel like the remedy then is? And, other than, I mean, obviously setting boundaries is important, but I know that for a lot of people and those who are particularly generous by nature,
mhm.
um, especially if they've felt stifled by this, because, I spent a decade in the corporate world where you're not generous about anything in the corporate world. It just doesn't happen. If you're, if anybody's experienced it like mine anyway. But going that to this open environment, I mean, we're seeing that on LinkedIn more and more now of people really just being open and generous and sharing. But with that comes the need to set boundaries.
Mhm. There's one thing, a lot of people have told me that I'm way too generous with my time and my
Mm-hmm.
information and so on and so forth because I'm going to dilute my brand. Well, the truth of the matter is there's nothing original out there. It's just the way that you package it. It's the way that you talk about it. It's the way that you share. And so if I'm going to give information to somebody, what's the big deal? Really, honestly, they may not be able to deliver it the same way that I would deliver it. They may not be able to have the experiences that I've had the experience in.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about you've had, a dozen years in corporate, I had 2 years, and it was 2 years way too long for me because I'm truly an entrepreneur. But when people say to me, "Let me just pick your brains," I will give them time. But I also remind them that what they're trying to build is a for-profit company, and that they have to be able to, be able to charge for their services. And sometimes that gets, people say, "Yeah, but you're my friend." And that's true. But you have to also treat your friends, and support them like you do with all the celebrities out there. When you buy somebody's makeup or you buy somebody's sneakers, you're supporting them. So I'm careful, but I give a lot more than people say I should. And maybe it's good or bad. For me, it works. For me, that's my personality, and it works for me.
And that's such an important point. It's we live in this environment, especially online, where we have so many people telling us what we should think and what we should do and how we should run our business,
Hmm.
and that that leftover hero mentality, and that's not always the case. I think it's important for all of us to be reminding people that no, there is no one solution, one size
Nope.
fits all solution that's going to work for everybody. How much you give works for you and the people that you serve, and it makes sense for your life. And I can see that about you. I can sense that you live in that equilibrium, and your own value, and that you have to take care of yourself to be able to maintain that value.
Yep.
But for somebody else, it could be completely different. So I just speak to the people who resonate with that, and then I try not to worry about anybody else, because there are always going to be those people who are going to say, "Look, you're giving too much of your time. You're diluting your brand. You're making a big mistake." Okay, that's fine. Thank you for your words. Have a nice day.
Yeah, and I acknowledge it sometimes. I'll
Mm,
acknowledge it and say, I absolutely hear what you're saying. For me, this what works for me.
hmm.
And then they stop. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an indefensible position, really.
Yeah.
It's because it's works for me. Obviously, I've got the backing to prove it. I'm here. I'm still in the game. So, how can you say it doesn't work?
Yeah. And I do believe that you have to decide what direction you want to go in, and how you want to do things, and you also have to be a role model, because people are watching you whether you believe it or not.
Hmm.
Because at some point in your life, somebody's going to call you and say, "Hey, Lee, you know what? You may not remember me, but I heard you speak at such and such, and you changed my life. I didn't quit, or I went further, or whatever." So people are watching you, not in a creepy way, but they are. Well, sometimes they are, but they are. But truly, people watch what you do, and they listen, and they sometimes they expect things from you because they know the person that you are. And I always try to make sure that I do my absolute best in everything that I do. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But I'm okay with it because I have to learn and grow as well.
Absolutely. So, can you pinpoint a point where this concept, the generosity, the way you do business, was there a particular moment where you came to where you said, okay, no, this is why. This moment is why that I choose to do the business this way, and live life this way, and not the way somebody else is telling me to.
Well, I can tell you when it really officially started, but I can tell you I also have been like this on my entire life.
Okay.
I know I'm not supposed to talk about my business, and I won't, but I'm going to talk about business as an umbrella. When I
Hmm.
was in any of the companies that I worked with or for, I was the only female. I was the only
Mm.
female that there was. And so I had to figure out how to be successful and make my own playbook and things like that. I also knew which people would share their time, would champion me as because I was female. And so I decided when I did go out on my own again and start all over again, the one thing that I wanted to make sure is that I could help one woman a day. That was my mission, help one woman a day. And people would say to me, what about 1,000? What about 1,000,000? But if you help one woman, then, exponentially, that's a lot of women, right? And so I decided that I was going to be generous with my time because I knew the people that were, and I also knew the people that weren't. And I learned so much from both. So if I could give my time to somebody, if I could say something that was going to support them or help them on their journey, if I could make somebody feel good about themselves, that's what I was going to do. So that really officially, and I'm using air quotes,
Yeah.
officially started in 2000, probably 5.
Oh, really cool. Really cool. But you say you've been that way, really that's just been intrinsically a part of you
Yeah,
all your life. So it's just, you're bringing what you do in alignment with who you are.
correct, correct. And then I think you have to be in alignment, because when you work somewhere or you work with people, then you're not, you're compromising your values and you're not in alignment. Nothing's going to go right. It just doesn't. Everything starts to fall apart, and you watch it right in front of you, and you have to do something about it.
Hmm. Hmm. And to stay in something like that that's out of alignment for so long, that's, for me, that's where a lot of burnout came in, because again,
Absolutely.
you said 2 years was too long in the corporate world, and again, I had over a decade, and that was at least a decade too long, because it's a lesson I should have learned long ago, but. I keep forgetting who the quote is, that the three most dangerous addictions are, what is it? Carbohydrates, uh, carbohydrates and a monthly salary were two of them, and I always forget what the one in the middle is. But the point being is that thing can get addictive, even for those of us who are entrepreneurial in nature.
Well, you're right, because I remember, being a corporate executive. I remember the first time there was a check deposited into my checking account, and I thought, "What is this?" Because I was 100% commission, and I still am. And I thought, what do I do with it? So if I work more, do I get paid more? It was the weirdest feeling. And then you just watch every other week that there was money deposited, and you thought, "Well, this is pretty cool." But when the culture does not align with that, it's not cool at all.
No, no, absolutely not. Let's see, what else have we got? Just a bunch of just big overarching concepts here. I love it. You talk about courage.
Hmm.
So what made you decide that needed to be in the mix there?
Conversation.
Hmm.
Because I think that a lot of times we don't look at courage as part of leadership, and it takes a lot of courage to be an entrepreneur. It takes a lot of courage to be a leader. It takes a lot of courage to be, a lot of courage in life, period. But when you do show that you're courageous and you're going to try something that's very different, or try something that no one's ever thought of, or be a disruptor, um, people look at you. Sometimes they tell you you're absolutely crazy, and sometimes they're looking at you and they're like, "Wow, you're really cool." When I decided to leave my position in corporate, half the people told me that they were surprised I lasted that long, because it was a very toxic environment. And the other half said to me, "Oh my God, you're like the most amazing person I've ever met." Go with whatever camp you want, but it takes courage to take that leap of faith, and it takes courage to do something that is not the most um, appealing topic for people. Like, some people will say to me, you talk a lot about women. That's so cute." Well, no, it's not that it's cute. It's a business issue. It's not a women's issue. So when people say, "Man, that's so cute," it takes courage to, like, bite your tongue also.
Mm. For sure. Yeah, no, it's not cute. It's necessary.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a
Uh,
big it's a big business issue.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's part of the evolution of the global market,
Yep, yep.
and to dismiss it as cute. All right, I'll get on my soapbox some other time. All right.
Yeah.
The courage issue is definitely that, and I know from like doing what I do for a long time, that I spent a lot of it hiding behind a keyboard, and afraid to really step out, because I
Hmm.
didn't really agree with what the masses were saying, but I just kind of had that underlying fear that, like, if I really set out and said what I thought about it, that I would just get trounced, and that I would have people
Yep.
all over me saying, this is not how things are done, and so there are all of those things, like, in our minds, that we can blow completely out of proportion, the what ifs,
Right.
that most likely are never going to happen. In my case, I've had a few people take swipes at me, and it's never been anything I can't deal with. And I'd say for the most of people, as long as you're not willing to, or as long as you're willing to not take things terribly personally, it's not that bad.
No, and you have to have the courage to speak up, and you also have to
Mhm.
have the courage when not to speak up. because it goes both ways. There's certain times, well, if you're going to speak up and it's inappropriate, let's put it that way, or when you need to give someone feedback, you have to have the courage to wait and take them aside, as opposed to just like blasting them. So it's all about, personality, and it's all about maturity, and it's all about, experience. And, some people do it correctly and some people don't.
So
So
courage really can factor too into the way that you say it too. I mean,
absolutely.
because there is obviously in any given situation, especially if you're giving feedback or criticism, there's a right way and a wrong way.
Absolutely. And
you
yeah,
know.
right. And you just have the courage to also mentally think about what you're going to say and how someone's going to hear it. The way you deliver it isn't always the way that someone receives it. And so, I always tell people when they say, I'm going to do this and this and this, I say it out loud and see what it sounds like. And
Mm,
sometimes they'll say it out loud and they're like, oh no, that doesn't sound that it's not what I thought it was going to sound like. And so you have to have the courage to give some people, like coachable moments.
right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Letting them find out for themselves rather than just telling them.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, that's a lesson that took me about 40 years to figure out. I've always
Hey,
wanted to just jump in and be like, "Here's the answer. What's wrong with you? Why can't you see this?" And so,
right.
nah, it doesn't work that way most of the time. Oh goodness. All right, so you've got a few minutes left. Any other topics that you'd like to touch on while we've got the opportunity?
I think that the way that the world is going today, there's one concept that people are forgetting about, and that's called kindness. And everybody is, sniping at each other and just being snarky and all these other kind of things. And so I make it a point every single day to say something kind to somebody that I don't know. I just walk up to
Mm,
them and it could be, oh, I like your bow tie, or, I just like the way your energy is. And the responses that I get are either one of complete horror because I have no idea what to respond to,
mm-hmm,
one of, oh, me you're talking to, or very quietly they say, thank you so much. But the truth of the matter is that you never know when somebody doesn't hear something kind. So if you can say something kind to somebody and change their day, that to me, it's tremendous. And I try to, instill that in my circle. My children all do this, that they know that you need to be kind to people. And so again, what I do works for me, and I've seen people watch me do this and they're like, why did you say that? Why did you do that? I'm like,
mm-hmm,
because that's who I am.
mm-hmm.
So
That's exactly right. And I know people who, and I was this way for a long time, who would probably not be kind because of fear of the
mhm.
response. Um, if I go up to somebody and I say, "Hey, I love your necklace," or whatever, they that look of horror isn't because I did something wrong. It's because there's something inside. They're not used to it because
Correct.
we live in a world where that's not common anymore.
That's right.
But so many people internalize that, and that's something that I really had to spend years working through, of just being like, okay, if somebody responds negatively, that's not on me, that's on them. Unfortunately, it's something they have to work through.
Well, it's interesting because one year my husband was away for his birthday, and so I wanted to send. He likes pineapple upside down cakes, and so where he was, I called every single bakery, and nobody was baking this. So I called the concierge of the hotel, and I said, "Here's my challenge. Can you help me?" She said, "Absolutely." Next thing I know, there's a cake delivered to his room. So I asked her for the information so I could call the bakery and thank them. And when I called, this woman answered the phone and I said, may I speak to the owner? She said, for what? And I said, I just wanted to, say something to him. And so she said, fine. And he gets on the phone and this is how he answered. He goes, what?
Oh, wow.
So I said to him, I just wanted to thank you. You did something really sweet for my husband, blah, blah, blah. And you could hear like him exhale. And he said, really? And I said, doesn't anybody ever call you and say thank you? He said, no, actually people call me to complain about this, or this wasn't this, or why can't I do this quicker or
Mhm.
faster, or whatever. And I said, you know what? Just hold on to this one then. And so that's what I'm saying. People, you don't know what's going on in somebody's life. But you imagine like never hearing something kind and sweet?
Yeah, actually, my wife is a claims adjuster.
Oh,
And an
oh yeah.
yeah. So trust me, I she does not enjoy that part of it at all. She enjoys the helping people part, and she does have to do a lot of holding on to the ones who do say thank you, because there are a lot of people who aren't too terribly
Absolutely.
pleasant to deal with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't envy her. I mean, 20 years ago I could have put up with it. Today, you know, I guess I've just gotten too used to telling people to go pound sand if they don't like what I have to say.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. And kindness, yes, absolutely. And
Hmm.
the more you practice it, and the more you practice it, the more you do receive it. And
Absolutely.
once you get to the point where you can say, you know what, not all of my kindness is going to be met with kindness, and that's okay, then you're in a really powerful position to do some good in the world, I believe.
Well, when you share something and you compliment somebody, don't expect to get one back. If you don't expect it and it comes back great, and if it doesn't, it's okay. That's the way it is. That you didn't. If you said it to get something back, then you said it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. And with that, we have completed the Lee After Dark 20-minute not talking about your
Woo!
business challenge. Yeah. So
Yay!
invisible confetti and rains down and all that. And being a man of my word, I want to give you 5 minutes to tell us about your business, any offers you got going on, how people can contact you. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you ever so much, and I'm glad I didn't ruin that piece for me. Uh, So as I said, I have always been the only female in everything that I've done. So my company is called Selling in a Skirt, and it has nothing to do with the article of clothing. It actually has to do, it's an acronym, and it's about sales and leadership. So it's standing out, keys to success, inspiration, results oriented, and time management. And so most of us have at least one of those challenges, and many of us have all of those challenges. It just happened to spell out the word skirt. So that's why it's that. But I do executive coaching, I do consulting, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I am a trainer in sales and leadership. And, I'm all over social media. So you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, all under Judy Hoberman or Selling in a Skirt. And a lot of the things I do are private for companies, but I also have things that are open to the public. So if people follow me, you'll see everything that I do.
Wonderful and very generous of you, and of course that doesn't surprise me, being that that's just part of your nature. So we will make sure that we have all of these links that you sent over in the show notes, so that people can contact you
Great.
directly. And so wonderful that you've got this information available. Any parting words before we wrap this up?
So my tagline is women want to be treated equally, not identically. And that's
Mhm.
usually how I end my shows or speaking or anything, because really all we're asking for is opportunities to do the same thing as everybody else. So if you keep that in mind, it works.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thank
Well,
you.
Judy, thank you again for spending
Thank
time
you.
with us today, for sharing some bits of your story, and for sharing about your business. I highly encourage you to go check her out. We are out of time, but if you found Lee After Dark more entertaining and relevant than most of the dreck out there, subscribe to the Lee After Dark YouTube channel, and now get Lee After Dark in your pants. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Stitcher, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and who the heck knows where else. So you can enjoy us wherever you stick your phone. Until next time, this is Lee Rowley with my new friend Judy Hoberman. Be present and be well.